then an update on Kriegel. So why don't we go ahead and kick us off to the first thing, Kelly and Clayton, what you got as far as PSI? Okay, good timing, Clarence. Hopefully you're on. Is the last presentation we had was Clarence and Scott Bryn did a presentation of Market 1255, which is in Maryland. Clarence, we haven't heard yet how things went, but we're looking for an update on how it was attended, what were covered, and kind of anything you can provide to the team on what happened out there. Must still be calling in.
Yeah, I don't think he's on yet.
Oh, there he goes.
Oh,
Hello, can you hear me?
we can hear you. Thanks, Clarence. Thanks for coming. So, Clarence, you've got your counterparts on here. We're looking for, you had on Friday, I believe it was the 20th. No, wait a minute. You had
Last Tuesday.
Last Tuesday, you had a meeting. What can you tell us about who was in attendance, how it went, kind of what everybody needs to know about that?
The meeting was pretty much all the PSIs from the stores in that market, and it was roughly about 10 to 12. Everything went fine. I mean, as far as understanding the book, that's not the issue. The biggest issue is they're looking for more material to help sell jobs, more, handouts, samples of glass, pretty much everything that we don't have. But, we can help them with the book and pricing and quoting. So that's the biggest issue. But outside of that, they understand the whole concept for the most part of what the heavy shower glass program is. Some are still kind of in between, not realizing that we only do type 2 and not type 1. So some of the questions are getting them to understand the difference between type 2 and type 1. Outside of that, that's pretty much it.
Okay, and how did you and Scott feel after you left the meeting? How did you feel about the program? There's good positive energy. Did you feel better or worse after leaving the meeting?
Well, not necessarily. I didn't feel bad after leaving the meeting. I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying to park and I got guys in my way. I'm just pulling back up to the shop. After leaving the meeting, I think went well. Just the fact that they were just looking for additional information that we didn't have to give them. And I think once they understand, and as I told every PSI there, if they needed anything additional from this point on, to call me personally, and I can help them out. But just being able to figure out what can be done and how it can be done, I think is the hardest thing for some of them to understand that and be able to relate that to the customers. I mean, prime example, I'm just getting back from an estimate in Gaithersburg. There's no tile, there's no wood in the wall. So as I explained that, there's one thing I explained to the PSIs: if you guys are not talking to the customers about how the shower was constructed, if we didn't do it from start to finish, you have to ask that question, because now, unless we point it out to them, they don't know that there needs to be wood in the wall to support that door. And that's not the first one, but probably the second one for Lowe's that I've had to deal with, like, in that manner. So now they got to have someone come in and, secure the wall, put support in the wall.
Well, wouldn't that be, if it's a PSI, then that's working with their TC to get that cleaned up, right?
Well, not all of them, because like I said, this one, the customer had the tile work done by someone else, and then they went to Lowe's for the shower. So now we're coming out talking to them about the shower.
Yeah.
So even if it's being done in Lowe's, whoever's talking to them in Lowe's should ask that question, or at least put the question in front of them: do you know if the door or the wall has wood support?
It's a legacy job,
so
Mike.
this is not a PSI job. This
it's
is
a legacy
job.
I guess a legacy job, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So what we're saying is that we need to work forward to try to put something in place where anybody else on the call, have you guys run into, you know, Ed, you've done a lot of these. What's the problem you've had?
Clarence.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Ed, Corey, and Brent, you guys have done the most of these. Have you run into many jobs where you've gone out and you run into this problem?
Not as far as from there not being support. We have had issues with, you know, the curb sloping the wrong way, so it's sloping out as opposed to in. There have been some walls out of that aren't really level as they need to be. And what we do is we advise Lowe's, the PSI about that, and for the most part, they've been saying go ahead and put it in the best way possible. So, but as far as there not being enough support, we haven't run into that issue. We will use the wall anchors where we need to, but yeah, not every time we're able to get a bite into a 2x4 when we're putting these up. So I'm not sure if that was really the issue he was having.
Okay. So, anybody else have anybody else on this, have any input on how you think we ought to handle it? I mean, what I'm hearing from my side is, number one, is that's the thing that we can put in try to get to the legacy people, which again is going to take the most training.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, what I hear is that if there's situations like out of square and slope, that's why we go out. That's what we have a sign off for, and we have accommodations in our quoter. Okay, that slope's really important to get that sign off that, using our form that pre-discloses that, there can be tile issues, and also that if there's a slope problem, making sure that's discussed with the customer. That's kind of why we created that form, to make sure that we know it's being done. I think that that's just going to be a training issue on that. So we'll, any of you that have anything that you want to add to that, please let us know. And thanks for the feedback, Clarence.
Yes.
We'll let everybody know. Here's a couple things that came up this week. Is we had our first travel charge, and it was based out of Westchester, Jeff Miller area. Okay, what happens is, who receives the money charged for travel? That 100% flows through to you guys. Okay, and what's going to happen is, you get the $2 per mile. It is, for example, if the store looks up on a map, and if the customer's residence is, let's say you have a 20-mile radius from the store, let's say it's 30 miles. Okay, that's 10 miles at $2. Or you could call it, 20 miles at $1. But the way they're going to charge it out is they're going to do the math, and they're going to say, okay, we're out of our radius by X miles. That times the $2. It's their responsibility to put that. Their responsibility to identify that, or our responsibility to make sure that we charge that out for both the detail. So we'll get you the mileage. Remember, we keep the $35 as part of administration, but we will charge out and get you the mileage portion if you have to go outside that radius. And then when you do your estimate, you need to make sure if you're going back out, obviously you can't go install a shower door unless you go back out a second time. You need to put that mileage. There's a line on the estimate form to make sure you put that same mileage and you charge it in your estimate the second go around.
Yep.
And the mileage will come net of fees. And I think that's the way, Kelly, we need to make sure.
Yep.
I don't think when Lowe's deducts their 25% and we deduct our 3%, the mileage isn't affected by that.
Right. And that's what I'm going to also watch for when this first, because it's our first one, make sure that comes in right.
Okay.
This is
Any
just a.
questions on that?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
This Google folders here is just a reminder that Clayton has done a great job setting up a Google Drive, shared drive for us with some great resources on there. The locations for the Lowe's, and then there's the meeting materials are on there. So if you haven't received that link to be able to access those, let us know, because we're Clayton is adding things daily to it, and we're keeping those up to date. So
in that, by the way, going back, like you said, we're keeping our frequently asked questions, and we keep updating as new things come up. We have meetings, all your meetings materials. We have your store roster. Is there a schedule on there, guys, to where we're keeping track of what's been,
yes,
what meetings have been booked or
That's
not,
correct.
or is it just the materials? Tell us what's on the
yeah. There's
what's on there from us.
oh, there. Oh, sorry. If I can escape here, I can go show you real fast if you'd like. So I'm gonna pull it
If
up.
any of you have any questions about how you get to this or how this works, Clayton, go to Clayton and he'll make sure you're set up.
Support files.
Okay. Yeah, so if you go to your shared with me files, under Lowe's support files, they're right here. These are all the ones you guys have the access to. So if you click on the meetings and materials, the presentation, the PowerPoint is right here. Those handouts that we sent you guys for the PSIs to do like the one-on-one training exercises, they're in here. The case studies, the estimate form, you can just click and you can print if you'd like, or email. Those are all right here for you. And here's where we were just talking about the mileage, where you would add that. And we want to make sure that if it's a legacy job, if they give us 30 extra miles, so it would have been a 50-mile from the store job, that we only put on this estimate 30 miles times that $2.
And that's why we're asking to do the math, guys. You show the total miles less the 20, which equals, I mean, if you look at that line item, it says customer miles from store
Right.
minus 20 equals X, and it's X times the $2 is the upcharge.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So
So
what is this one?
then we have our presentation
Oh, here's the
with
YouTube link for the PSI presentation that we did, and this is also the training video if you need to review Corrigo.
anybody we're going to move on. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay.
And here is
Now we're
also.
going to go over to the meeting.
Okay.
We're going to ask you if you did a meeting between, you were part of a meeting
Yeah.
that we're going to want a feedback. And if you can't be on the call to give us in your words the feedback, we need a download to Clayton or Kelly to let us know what we learned and how the meeting went, who was there and all that.
That's right.
So, okay, let's go ahead and go to this, keep it moving on. The Main Street, I've created a national account and called Lowe's National Shower Door Program. And I pushed this account out. It should be in your Main Street. You guys need to go look for this account in customers. And for everything that runs through us. Now, if you have a type 1 program where you're working with them directly, I'd still like to set up an account, but it's not what we're focused on right now. But when you bill and send us an invoice, we would like you to use this account. It's just another way to make sure, A, you're billing it to the right place, and then secondly, it's got all our contact information, and secondly, it also gives us additional tracking of numbers. So Kelly and Clayton will be working when you submit invoices and stuff. We're not going to have you go back and credit and rebill, but we're going to start working with you to, number one, validate you have this account, and number two, make sure future invoices are coming through only on this particular account.
Okay.
And if you set up a different one for it, I would ask you to go in it, and it's for Lowe's that is billing sends to us. I would ask you to go, and we can show you how to deactivate that, turn it inactive, so you don't, get confused on what to use. Any question on that? Okay. So let's talk about what's happened in the last 2 weeks. We're going to start trying to give you some stats. Okay, we've gotten 6 legacy orders and 3 PSI orders in the last 2 weeks.
Yes.
Since our meeting 2 weeks ago. Jeff Miller had 2. Marcus Gordon had 1. Clarence Williams had 2. Ed Sieber had 1. And then you can see the current status on them. We've had 3 PSIs. Jeff Miller's gotten 1. Ed Sieber's gotten 2. And we've had no work orders canceled, meaning none in the last 2 weeks have gotten where they haven't been, where customers said, I'm not going with it. We're working on coming up with stats, but remember the PSIs are all sold jobs, so those 3 are actually sales. The legacy jobs are, our expectation is we need to see north of 50% closing rate. We got to ask ourselves what's happening if it's not happening. And what we haven't seen is we haven't seen a lot of the confusion that first week. We had people sending in type 1 jobs and stuff that has settled down substantially. There's 2 reasons for cancellation. One, they sent us the wrong type of job. And number 2 is it's basically not going to get sold. Someone said, I don't want to go with it. Well, we've had none that we've basically, no mistakes in the last 2 weeks that we've had to cancel, and also no jobs that we've been told we're not going with.
That's correct.
Is there more to that slide, Kelly? Do we know how many we've actually received the go on of the legacies? No,
Not
we
within the
don't
2 weeks.
We don't have that.
Yeah.
What?
Not within these 2 weeks. These work orders we haven't received approval on. But,
and this is only looking. So if there's something older than 2 weeks that we've received approval on right now, that's not being included in what we're showing, right?
That's correct. Now,
we're working on the reporting there.
The one on legacy, we have had a couple of them come through on the legacy jobs where they've been, when our guys get there, then they'll ask them to do an estimate on 1 or 2 showers. So I did get the notes, Brent and Corey, on your legacy job. So do you guys want to tell about that one? Because it looked like you guys gave several estimates for that job. Or 1 estimate for several showers.
Well, actually, there were 3 different showers that we were called out for as a legacy quote.
Mm-hmm.
There was a master bathroom, a second bathroom, and then a pool house bathroom as well. So that's why it came over as 1 shower, but technically there were 3 legacy quotes in 1 house.
Mm-hmm.
Is how we treated that.
Hey, Mike, this is that vice president guy with Lowe's. So it turned out interesting in that he had already gotten an estimate from one of our big competitors. And just so happens when you back out the Lowe's 25%, we were within like $3 of their estimate. So he may end up going with Barefoot though, so I don't know who we file a complaint with on that. But, but anyway, just wanted to give you the information that, our books used to be kind of right dead on it. So.
Okay, so what we're going to want to do is, when we find out one way or the other, Ed, we're going to want to, Clayton and Kelly, we need to know the name of that person. We're going to want to let Kevin know that.
I have it, okay.
That their own guy compared us against non-Lowe's. The difference was that 25%, and you know what? It's a shame saying we didn't get it, but that's, you know, nobody should be surprised by this. And that is right. We want to make sure that we'll have to talk behind the scenes. I did not realize that there was 3 estimates. We're going to want to talk behind the scene on how we track that, guys, and how we deal with that.
Because when the paperwork came over, it didn't say 3. When I found that out was when I contacted the customer, and then he's the one that told me that there were actually 3 that we were measuring.
Right.
Well, yeah, so we'll bring that up, but I don't know that that's a problem. And I think you've turned in probably 3 estimate sheets, 1 for each shower, right?
Correct. We have 1 for each.
Okay. So Kelly, what we need to do is I'm thinking that might be a master work order and 2 child work orders, which lets us set up. That lets us set up if one gets approved and the other doesn't and whatever. So that's the first I've heard of that. You did it right. Thank you.
Yes.
Guys, if that comes up, we want the estimates need to be per shower door. It can be under 1 work order, and then we'll work on the backside the process of setting up how we manage the fact that 1 or 2 could get approved and 1 maybe not, and we'll work on that.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing.
So that's something we'll follow up. Kelly and Clayton, let's put that on. We meet a couple times a week. We'll put that on our agenda to review.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Kelly.
Yes, sir.
What you got here?
Just read off this.
So with Corrigo, we want to just remind you guys that we're communicating. I know you guys have all been working really hard to make sure you're leaving notes within the portal, and then we'll want to make sure any of the store communication, like we're trying our best to do a good job of also when Lowe's is asking, then we're updating those notes so you guys can see, hey, Lowe's is calling on this work order. We're trying to get to where Lowe's isn't calling us. We already have them with an update. And also I'm going to be pushing for them to start using the Corrigo portal. We've kind of held back just so we could all get our ducks in the row and we can all learn the system, have a chance to make sure that we're adding those notes and keeping it up to date. So I'm going to be pushing and training, helping them.
So guys, here's my opinion. We talked about this morning. If we're having to chase you down for information and we can't find it in there, number 1, we're going to hound you. And number 2, if we're not getting a hold of you, we're going to start setting up scheduled calls because it lets this slide. And number 3, we got to figure out Lowe's shouldn't have to chase us for the information, and we shouldn't have to chase you. And so we're going to have to figure out, okay, how do we make sure the process is flowing where we're not having to do that? I've just told Kelly that she needs to start really pushing the issue of getting people that where there's any kind of velocity. Again, if we haven't seen much from any store, there's no point in it. But the stores that we're starting to see, regular communications from, then we've got to get them set up so they're in Corrigo, and hopefully it will settle down the left hand not knowing what the right hand is doing, and it's the proper vehicle, and then we need them to communicate through it also.
Right. That's right. Now,
secondly, is the certificate of completion. We're going to work on getting emails because to me this is like people not getting sign off when they go for a facility maintenance job. Half the time, it's just because they don't work hard enough at it or they're not serious enough about it. You need to fix that with your people. And if someone's leaving and they're not going to be there when you complete the job, then you better either get them to pre-sign it and or have an email where you can follow up with them, because just saying I didn't get it or couldn't get it is not acceptable. And you know what? We can talk about your process and about your people, but if you're allowing that to be an excuse, frankly, it's exactly that. I think you're allowing that to be an excuse. And if we don't have a certificate of completion and you bill us, you haven't done anything. The timing for us to be able to bill Lowe's and be able to get the process starting, which right now the expectation is a 30 to 45 day window from that certificate of completion. We think it's 30. We
Mhm.
need to be prepared for 45. We will get it down to hopefully under 30. But when we look and say, when was it billed? If we don't submit a certificate of completion, it's never been billed. I don't care what it says on your paperwork. You haven't given us what we need to be able to bill Lowe's. And you could say it's been out 60 days. My first thing is going to be, when did we get all the completed paperwork, including the certificate of completion? That's the real date.
Well, I can add something to the COC. Whenever I'm invoicing, so if I was to take, which it did happen, if I was to take an invoice and invoice it into Lowe's system right now and not include the COC, it will go to a problem invoice stage, and then they have 45 days to review that, and then notice that the COC wasn't there. And their system is set up where I wouldn't be able to do anything with it until they've opened it back up. So then I could go in and attach that COC. So it's really important to make sure that the COC is uploaded, because I won't go and process it until we have that.
Yeah, so
It
we'll have
delays it.
those dates. It'll be in the portal, but yes, we're not invoicing it without a COC. And if we haven't invoiced it, according to Lowe's and the payment schedule, that job is not complete.
Right.
And if we don't have a COC, that job is not complete. So we're going to have to get real good at understanding on, A, making sure we get it, or B, if we're not going to get it, everybody needs to know they better have an email. Because having to run back and get it is just not efficient for you and for anybody.
And
Not necessary.
And Clayton, Mike and I discussed this morning, and we're going to work to have an additional field put over, or somehow have the email for the customer added. So when we send you guys the work order over, their email will be included in the contact information. So that'll be coming to help you with that.
Okay?
Also, the measure dates, if you guys will make sure you're adding those dates in there, that's super helpful in that field. So whenever you guys receive your work order and you've called to set up that first, either that estimate date, make sure that you're adding that in there. And then whenever the installation date, we'll want to change that to make sure that that's reflected on the work order. So just a reminder. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, if we don't pick up the work order within 2 hours,
Okay.
again, we know if it comes in Saturday, that you're not going to pick it up. Then we're going to call you, but if we got to make a lot of calls, we got to figure out where the process is breaking down. That's why we have 3 people on this list. If you don't contact the customer within 24 hours, we're going to be calling you. And like Kelly said, it doesn't mean you're scheduled within 24 hours, but we need the notes in there that the effort's being made. And again, if you guys are feeling that this is too difficult, then we need to talk about, A, is there ways to streamline it, and B, what makes it so difficult? Because it really, I really don't believe it should be, but I'm open-minded to why it can't work within the structure of what you guys do in your offices. Okay, we're done with that part. I want to go to the scheduling jobs. I've asked Kelly to find out where we're at, okay, with getting out to the stores. I understand with right now, with the lack of their, certain stores aren't producing a bunch of returns. And if it doesn't make sense for you to go to stores, we just need to know that. And we need to say, okay, which ones does it make sense? Which ones can you commit to? Because I have no problem going back to Lowe's and going, well, we're not running all around, but this will be our strategy, and we'll do it electronically for you until we start seeing some activity. The challenge is, without going to the stores, it is harder to get the program up and going, but we also, you got businesses to run. There needs to be a return, and if you are concerned about there not being a return, then we just need to know, because our expectation and our need is that basically in the next 45 days, and I told Kelly I want to know by next week when I have my meeting with Lowe's, is I want to be able to tell them everybody we've seen and everybody we haven't seen and what they can expect. Part of it might mean, well, we're not going to go see these stores out here until we've addressed the ones that are close and until we start seeing some work orders from the ones that are in our backyard. So, I mean, if that's the answer, then I'll tell them that, and I'll turn around and say, but what we are going to do is we're going to set up, through corporate, we'll set up, communicate with them via phone and webinars. So I'm not trying to have you do anything that doesn't make any sense, but we have a commitment to make sure that we're working together, good, bad, or indifferent, to explain how are we going to communicate with these stores.
Hey, Mike, is it possible for us to get a list of the PSIs and their email, or does that list exist? Just so we can.
Kelly, take
Yep.
it back to where it is. That we're keeping it updated in that Dropbox,
Okay.
and it's changing and being added to all the time.
Okay.
So
Did they have that?
Yes.
go
Yeah.
to store roster. See, you're added to store
wait.
roster and assignments.
Hold on.
That'll have the
Hold on just a second. Sorry. I think it's this one.
Yeah.
there we go.
FAQs and contact information. There's your PSIs.
Holy grail.
By store, by market. And we're updating this as much as we can. We should also be adding in here field service managers, everything we know.
These are the field service managers in blue. I'm working right now to try to get a list of the general contractors, because that would be super helpful with the PSIs, so you'll know who's going to be reaching out to you, or if you have a question, you could call them. So stay tuned for that coming up.
So Ed, did that answer your question?
Yeah. So, okay.
There's some we're missing, and we're
If you can't get into here, we can send this to you, but we also, when you guys come up with a contact, you didn't want to send a quick note, someone does, to make sure we fill it in so we get this as complete as possible.
Right. And so, if we could, if Clayton could send that over to us, we'd appreciate it.
sure, no problem.
He may have already. I just have to.
Clayton, send that to him as an Excel file.
Will do.
But the other thing, guys, is the easiest thing is to make sure you have access in this Dropbox so that, again, we're always dealing with real time, the freshest information.
And if you
Yeah,
guys,
so I was saying, can you send us that invitation, or do we?
yes,
Yeah. How do I get into that Dropbox?
we'll send you an email link. And also, if you guys have contacts that you're working with too, and we want to add them to this list, shoot us an email so we can put that on there.
Yeah, we're going to be trying to extract that out, but we need to know when you guys come up with contact, we need to make sure they're on this list, and vice versa. When we come up with them, we need to make sure we're getting them on this list so that we're not running all around duplicating effort trying to figure out who we get a hold of.
Okie dokie.
Okay, we got the next, up to the next 15 minutes, we got open floor for anybody that, my opinion on these materials, we're gonna have to go with the fact that we're giving them a nice book. We are pushing to get samples. Clayton, have we heard back from, have we made any headway with Cardinal about coming up with the little finished keychain samples and stuff?
I haven't heard back from Chuck yet.
Yeah, well, we're gonna make a point, put that on your list. We need to rattle the cage. We need to do something. You know what, guys? Who's gonna pay for it? And right now, we need to start building the return before there's any fancy merchandising. I know they want it. It makes sense. The message is, okay, let's work with what we got. We've given you this. You let us know what they're asking for. Shoot us an email. We'll make sure we're talking to Lowe's corporate, but I certainly don't plan to spend your money or our money on anything until we know that we're getting enough. It's catch-22 until we're getting enough return to be able to invest in that. We've already invested in all these we already invested in the materials you're dropping off at the stores, which are the nice printed books and everything. And frankly, that's a significant enough investment at this point in time, other than anything we can get Cardinal to give us. So, it's not that I'm open-minded. I think it's all important, but it's going to be a process we're going to have to build up to. I'm surprised that we haven't seen anything out of Atlanta. Jim, what are you finding when you're out there?
I haven't got to all the stores yet. I still got 3 more stores I got to get to this week. It's not for lack of trying. I've sent emails out to these people, but just haven't got a response. And I need to loop. It looks like I have to loop back to the people I've already talked to see what's holding things up.
So here's what I'm telling Kelly. My suggestion is let us help you with that. And, number one, if we know you've talked to, we can do a follow-up. But also, I think take your 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, however many stores are right in your backyard, and let's really focus on why aren't we getting anything out of there? Because that's easy for you to stop by and this and that. Frankly, and I think we can learn all we need to learn. And if someone else surfaces farther out that actually is going to start sending us orders, well, we can focus on them. But you know what? I think we need to target maybe 3 stores that are the easiest sweet spot for you to target and try to break through, start to see some activity or find out why we're not. Because again, I know there's what my concern is what you said is I don't think it's a lack of effort. I think it's going to take some time, but I also, we don't want this to be inefficient for you. We got to find a happy medium between investing that time, but we also got to make sure you're getting a return on the effort.
Well, that's why I was happy to hear about the webinar. I just don't know how to make sure that the people that I have either already talked to or need to talk to participate, so that there's some more reinforcement.
Okay, so a couple things. We'll watch that. Number 2, we're going to start going. You need to not be afraid to send them to Kelly and Clayton, and we'll line up webinars for individual PSIs and stores. It does not have to be this big thing, whatever it takes, right?
Yeah.
So number 1, and we say it on this, if you got PSIs out there you're not able to get to or new ones come aboard, I mean, if it makes sense to stop by and you can, great. Otherwise, let us do the work. We're here. And
I like that.
ask us to track down and say you're going to reach out to us, our help desk, and what you're going to do is ask us to set up a webinar, and at least we'll do as many as we need to do. We'll put notices out to the market or other people when we're doing them, but let us do that lifting for you.
Now, tomorrow on the
And
web.
then what we'll try to do is flush out people that say, "Can my guy come by?" or "These are particular issues," because again, they don't need to call you for everything. They need to call you for specifics when it comes to jobs and stuff, or talking about why something's priced the way, or kind of some training, simple training. We want you to have a relationship, but we don't want you putting it on your back, but you need to be talking to them all the time. Put that on our back. And let's have you doing that in a strategic, focused manner that is gonna break something loose. Kind of like you guys are like the closers and everything, but let us keep the dialogue and the communication going with you, so that you don't have more lifting than it makes sense.
Okay.
Wayne, Gaudette, what do you know?
He may have reached his destination.
That's right.
Tomorrow,
Anybody else on here
the webinar,
have a question?
they invited the PSIs tomorrow for the webinar, and then the market sales managers, and then ahead of or above them is the RSD, their regional sales directors. So we're anticipating, they've really been trying to push to make sure that everyone knew about the webinar tomorrow. So we'll definitely send you guys an email follow-up to let you know how it went and how our participation was.
But can we participate in the
We'll
webinar?
send you an invite. You're welcome to be on it if you want to. It's not mandatory. I will tell you, Kelly, I want to know we need to get explanation on how these titles are linked together. Who does what? Who oversees who?
Yes. So
Because right now, a regional SVP and a market sales manager. I know what a PSI is. Tell me what the role of a market sales manager and how they're linked to this program.
okay,
Who reports to them, and then the same thing with the RSVP.
okay. I'll work on getting the titles and be able to send that out on our next slide. Because I'm not RSD.
Yeah,
honestly,
and then what we can do, if we don't know when we go in tomorrow, I'm going to ask right on the call, explain to me why we have everybody on the call for our side. Can you explain to us kind of the link between that? But Kelly, it'd be kind of nice if we knew up front from Kevin or someone, so we don't have to ask that question. But if we're unclear, I'm still asking it.
okay.
So, Kelly, what I did see on here, I don't know if it's a chance that we didn't have anything put together. Did we invoice anything in the last 2 weeks?
Yes, we did. No, I didn't have a chance to get that all on this slide.
Okay.
So,
Guys, we don't have time yet, but every 2 weeks we're trying to show you who got what, and what the cancellation stuff was, what the actual commitment was, and also what was invoiced and who basically completed work and that we were able to invoice. So there has been work being invoiced. We'll start trying to get those stats. It's transparent. We want you to know exactly who's getting what and why, so we can ask ourselves why and how do we, what are they doing, or what's happening in that market that may not be happening in another market, and then how do we approach making sure you're getting stuff that's being invoiced. If you feel like this is taking too much of your time, you want to talk to us on the backside. Like I said, maybe you're either expecting too much of yourself, or we need to understand where it's tying up disproportionate amount of your time, so we can keep that balanced out and make it sense for everybody. Anybody have anything else they want to throw out as a question?
Yeah, Mike, it's Clarence. Are we only quoting what's in the book that we have?
You can
Is there
quote, give me an example, like what's come up that.
Customer wants a 40-inch door. The book only goes up to 34.
No, then what you would do in that case is that would be a custom quote that you just wouldn't be able to leave it on site, right? You'd have to go get what you need to get, and then we'd have to make sure we got it sent to the store and to the customer.
Okay.
You're not limited by the book. You are limited by, you aren't going to go. We do want to be careful not to conflict with type 1 stuff. And that we need to know when we're conflicting with that. But, your job is to quote them the solution. And if you have the solution, sale, finish, install, or type 2, then the only thing that's going to mean is that you're not armed to basically do it right there on site. If you can explain to them why, then you come back. Let's still get that quote put together.
if you have any questions about it, please send it over to Clayton, and he can help review it before you send it to the customer. And then make sure, because if you're not quoting out the book, it's not including the Lowe's 25%.
Right. You remember, take what you come up with and add a minimum of times it by 1.25 to up it 25%. Otherwise, if you quote it without that, what's going to happen is you're going to take a haircut that nobody expects nor wants you to take.
Okay.
So we do have a
Okay?
question.
Anybody have any?
So we have a someone on the call that says Churchill. Who is that? We want to make sure we add you to the roster for today's meeting.
Oh, that was us in Charlotte, sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
The road computer we were using.
Okay. Thank you.
Rebel.
And we have you marked down for attending today's meeting, so good job.
Oh, great.
So I would to reiterate, when you deal with legacy, the fact that there's confusion and all this and that, number one, that's not a surprise. The bright side is we can become the experts to settle that down for these people, which puts us in a nice position with them, and it does settle down. If everybody's done their work and we work together, it settles down, and it doesn't last more than a week or two from the time we actually get going with them, and things don't get repeated over and over from the same source. So that judgment, we have to be smart, make sure we're making the calls, we're asking the clarifying questions and all that. And again, if that's tying up too much of your guys' time, let us know. We'll get involved if we need to better understand the kind of time it's taking and try to figure out a way to streamline that for you. I'm going to be introducing next Monday to Lowe's. I think, frankly, we're ready to hit another 10 to 12 markets. So we're going to tell them we're ready whenever they're ready and kind of add it to the mix. And like I told you, unfortunately, it doesn't turn on and all of a sudden everybody drop everything. You've got tons of business. So, we can add a lot more stores before we have a capacity issue. And we're going to start being more aggressive because, although we'd all like more work, the stuff that's coming through still is holding true. The closing rates seem to be holding true. The margins seem to be holding true. And the process, we have no reason to believe that the process can or will not work. That's all we have on this end.
Yep.
Thank you guys for your time.
Yes. Check for your emails.
Keep communicating. So letting us know. I've asked Kelly to get more aggressive and communicating kind of where we're at. And the thing is keep communicating so we can figure out how to make this meet your expectations. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.